Okay, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be discussing my Ruger GP100. This is a 357 Magnum made by Ruger. Holds 6 rounds. Go ahead and show you that it is empty right now, so we can work on this gun. Today I'm just going to be discussing this gun a little bit and showing you how to semi-disassemble it. I'm not going to do a full disassembly, mostly because I don't have the part to remove this cylinder from this part that holds onto the cylinder. I forget the name of this. But haven't really made any real upgrades to this revolver. Only thing I really did was I changed the front sight on there and added this little dot. Now this isn't a tritium little device here. This is really just a hollow piece of plastic that lights up sort of when it's in sunlight. It is not glow in the dark, so I can pull that off for you here just by... So it's held in by a little plunger here with a spring in there, and you just push on it and it will let you remove the front sight. See if I can get that to focus. Come on, there we go. This is a little bit nice of an upgrade compared to the factory front sight. You can pick up on this a little bit easier. The actual front sight is just all flat black. There's nothing on there to actually help your eye actually attract it. So it's a nice little inexpensive upgrade. Now, to be able to start this, you want to have a screwdriver, probably like an Allen key or something, and a punch. You could probably do it with just 2 punches instead of the Allen key if you don't have Allen keys. Anyway, you start by taking off this screw at the bottom. There we go. Screw, I'm just going to leave that in there. And now we need to get rid of the mainspring. We do this by actually cocking the hammer. Now, always make sure that the gun is safe and unloaded, which we did. And basically I need a smaller Allen key here. This is where you put it through this little hole right here to catch onto the mainspring, and then you fire it. The mainspring will come right out. Now, careful not to pull this back out while you have the mainspring on there. It is very difficult to actually compress this spring and push this back in here. So just leave this as it is. You can really clean this pretty easily this way. This part really doesn't get very dirty. You might want to take it out and clean it maybe after every couple thousand rounds, but if you just want to take apart the gun just to maybe mess around with it. FYI, this might actually inhibit the warranty on this revolver by Ruger if you do disassemble it. I'm not entirely sure. I'm just rubbing away that oil. But anyway, further to disassemble this is you got to take out this little pin here that holds the hammer in. Now the hammer is going to be loose, but it's not going to necessarily come out very easily until we move the trigger guard. And to do that, there is a little button inside here. Let's see if I can... Right there, that we need to push on. Now, Ruger thought about this and they made a little hole back here so you can push that pin in. So let's do that. Careful not to let any of the springs go flying off or the transfer bar here. The transfer bar will actually very easily come out when you pull back on the trigger, so watch out for that. You don't want to lose your transfer bar. Pistol won't work without it. And we're not going to take this apart any further, this trigger assembly. There's a lot of little parts in here and springs, and I've done it once before and it's a bit difficult to actually put most of this back together. So I'm not going to bother with that, but if you really want to pull this thing apart and give it a good deep clean, you can spray some solution in there to break up any carbon. Again, it doesn't get very dirty inside here. It's all enclosed. But anyway, that's it. Now your hammer should drop out. Here we have our hammer. You can actually put the hammer in back this way, just so you know. And we can take the cylinder off. Now the cylinder does come apart more. Not going to take it apart anymore because, again, there's a tool that you actually need for taking this part of the cylinder off of the cylinder rod or mainspring or whatever you want to call this in here off, that holds this together. You basically are going to start by pushing out this pin here and pull this off. This is going to come off. Really, there's a few parts to this whole assembly here, but this is basically the furthest you really almost ever need to take this thing apart. But it makes it a little bit easier to maybe get in there and maybe buff out some of the wear on there. And there you have it. The only other things that are really left on this is really just the cylinder lock release, the rear sight, this bit here that holds onto the grip, and that's basically it. Pretty good revolver. Thing about Ruger revolvers is they don't make a lot of them, but when they make them, they built them like tanks. This thing is definitely a big chunk of steel. If you run out of bullets, you could definitely kill somebody by throwing it at them and probably picking it up and reloading it and shooting it again because they are that tough. This is really just a very, very thick piece of metal. I normally put in just 35 special in here. Shot plenty of 357 Magnum through here. Not bad at all. I kind of like shooting the 38 special just because it's cheaper, and you know, I could shoot that all day through this pistol because of how much this thing weighs, and accurately hit whatever I'm shooting at all day, every day, without really feeling any fatigue. But 357, little pop, not a lot. It's a pretty smooth shooter still with 357. I can shoot it with one-handed easily. Not a bad 357 Magnum. Now this isn't like their performance center or anything. They do make I believe Ruger makes a GP100 performance center, which is their competition styled revolver. This one definitely isn't that, but it's still a pretty nice one. Like if you're not doing any kind of competition or anything, you just want a fun range toy, or maybe you want a good trail gun, this would probably be a great choice. That or any Smith & Wesson made revolver. I mean, they are sort of the king of revolvers right now. But anyway, the trigger, I believe, is about a 10-pound trigger, firing it without cocking the hammer. Now, cocking the hammer, it's going to drop that down probably to about 1 pound. Now, I don't have a trigger gauge to measure this or anything. If I did, I would show you that that's pretty accurate, and it's pretty reliable too. Like I actually like the trigger on this. Now the performance center one, I believe, is much better. I've only had my hands on one of those one time at a gun shop, and I didn't buy it because it was well out of my price range. You know, the performance center is almost double what this costs, but they do make some pretty substantial upgrades. However, I don't believe you need that unless if you're doing any kind of actual like competition. So let's go ahead and put this back together. Put the cylinder in here first. Essentially, you just put this whole thing back together the same way you took it apart for the most part. Just kind of let that guy hang out in there. We got to make sure our transfer bar goes in there right. Sometimes it actually is easier to do that without the hammer. Okay. The transfer bar likes to get caught. See that? Okay, there we go. We can put back our hammer. Now, I'm putting the hammer back in. We're probably going to need to actually have it backwards like this, because if you're trying to push it in this way, you're going to actually have to push down on it substantially. I'd say don't do that. You definitely don't want to break any parts or wear down any parts inside there. Put that back on there. Actually, I believe I maybe put that back in there wrong. Yeah, I did. There we go. All right. So what I'm showing you is down inside here, this lever at the very bottom in there. That right there, this piece right here needs to go underneath it, and we'll push on this right here. So it needs to go back in there like that. If this is on top of that part like it was before, this won't cock back forward. So just remember that that piece needs to go up here. So you kind of want to push it down in there and kind of try and hook it, right? Sometimes it helps if you pull back on the trigger. There we go. Now we put back in our mainspring and put our mainspring in back the same way. Careful not to put this in reverse, right? So I'm not going to put it in this way. I want to put it in this way. Now when we put this on, we don't want to just pull this out. We actually want to pull back the hammer and make sure it's actually set on there. There we go. Now if you're wondering how to put this mainspring back in, there is a portion in here where it does fit in. You can see it's slightly to the right of the pistol is where it sits. Don't push it on the left side here where this groove is. I accidentally did that one time and wouldn't let my hammer actually cock at all. So it's got to go over to kind of more the right side. There's a trench in there where it rides in. Now we can do a little function test, make sure it's working. Yep, put back the grip here. And there we go. Now let's show you that trigger. Now again, I believe it's a 10-pound trigger. And it's a single action here, so very long pull. And then when it's double action, it goes down to probably about a pound. Very light. Let's show you that again. Very, very short travel, very easy to do. We actually forgot to put our front sight back on. Let's not forget that. Again, we're gonna put that back on the same way we took it off by just pushing on the plunger right here. I can get that to focus. I'm sorry about my camera. I got a new one, but it doesn't seem like it's much better than my old one. Anyway, that is my Ruger GP100, and I will see you in my next video.